Hello and welcome to ET Campus Stars, ET's flagship initiative now in its fifth edition. It's a wide-ranging initiative from the search of top engineering student talent, masterclasses to educate and inspire, and bringing in thought leadership to pinpoint the trends and signal a course for the future. I'm Maloni Bhatt, and our focus today, the challenges in hiring tech talent. Now, we all know that talent drives progress, it drives growth. Globally, there is a surge in demand for good tech talent, and India, of course, is no exception. Part of what's fueling this insatiable demand is the rising digitization propelled by the pandemic, remote working trends, rapid pace of technological change. Also, in India, especially with over 200 unicorns and soonicorns, which are soon to be unicorns, thirsting for talent, thousands of smaller startups too are on a hiring spree, and it's become very difficult both to hire as well as to retain good talent. While India is a hub of tech talent, demand still outstrips the supply. But to give us a perspective on the situation faced by companies, the quality of talent that's emerging, the challenges in hiring the right talent, we have with us a really cool panel. We have with us Mr. Jitendra Agarwal, who is the global CTO of Cars24, which is an e-commerce platform for cars. Jitendra, welcome.
Thanks, Melanie. It's great to be here.
All right. Then we have Puneet Gupta. He's the CTO of HomeLane, which offers customized modular home design solutions for home buyers. Puneet, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Melanie.
And lastly, we have with us Mr. Narayan Mahadevan, founder and CEO of BridgeLabz Solutions, which is a marketplace for deep tech talent. Narayan, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure to be here.
BridgeLabz is also our employability partner for this edition of ET Campus Stars. All right, so let's get into it. Narayan, my first question is to you. Hiring is back, underpinned perhaps by the great resignation. Much of it is led by tech talent. How big is retaining and hiring good, relevant tech talent a challenge for companies currently?
Big challenge. The reason behind is that, at companies we are, there are two levels. You talked about two questions, retaining and hiring. So I'll talk about retaining, right? Naturally, when everybody is looking on hiring talent and there's a very finite pool that exists, right? Retaining talent is a big challenge. So in a way, I would advise tech companies where, if you could identify the core members, right? And essentially try to retain them, give them more business exposure, give them more ownership in what they are in, create more services kind of environment where there are, you can retain your good talent and, you can't retain all, but you can at least retain your core talent. From a hiring perspective, my thoughts is that, there is no pool available. Trying to bid in a pooling war it's really not. We should rather focus on creating more employability pool, right? Out of 4.5 million engineers India has, right, only 30% are digital tech ready. What about giving them a chance, the remaining ones a chance to get them into tech, right? Out of 1 million engineers graduate, only 20% work on tech. How can we give them a chance to create more employability pool that way we solve the talent problem?
Right. These are interesting statistics. My next question is to both Jitendra and Puneet. There are many reports now. You open a newspaper and, every day you will see this report, talent war, hiring frenzy for digitally skilled tech talent. Yes, there was perhaps demand because of COVID, but what else for tech talent? Puneet, if you could go first.
Yeah, I would agree that there is a frenzy around. Quite a bit is very genuine, and I think everyone is looking to outbid each other in the drive to convert some of the good talent to actual hires. But I think long term, if I think about it, an individual needs to stay connected to your organization, to your vision, to what you're bringing to the market, right? And it cannot just be about the stuff that you offer them, but more from the culture, a nourishment for their growth in a more 360-degree manner, rather than just being about the perks. And I think that is where this frenzy, in some sense, would boil down to something similar to what Narayan said earlier, that you try to retain the good people by linking them to the business vision, by the goals of the organization, and involving them in a more holistic manner. So that is my 2 cents about the frenzy that is going on around.
Okay, all right. Jitendra?
I think the demand has always been there. It's not new, according to me. I think every 5 years I see this. I've observed two distinct reasons, and you have actually said this already: new jobs being created and attrition. New jobs are being created by big startups, unicorns, small startups trying to put together their first small team of engineers. I also see companies in US and other countries hiring in India.
Yeah.
And then big farm companies and large Web3 companies, they're also creating new demands. And what you mentioned earlier, traditional Indian companies, because of digitalization, they are also flexing their tech muscles.
Yeah.
All of these are creating new demands. But at the same time, the whole attrition angle is huge. The way it works is Web3 company hires people who have been with large Google-like companies for 10 years. Now these companies have to replace these employees. They would hire from people like us, startups. Big startups will hire from small startups. Small startups would hire from mid-sized enterprises. Mid-sized enterprises will hire from services companies. And all of us are suddenly in the market for hiring people. we could do better if we just retain our people. At Cast24, we have worked hard on retaining our people, attracting talent. We have even changed our interview process to reflect the type of problems our engineers will solve after joining us. I think the industry has to do all this. And as Narayan said, we have to invest in and bet on people who are just graduating now, and then this whole frenzy can potentially come under control.
But Jeet,
Yeah.
you may want to retain, right? But what if they want to go?
That's a good one, Maloney. As Puneet and Narayan said, we can't retain everyone.
Yeah.
There are some people who have been with us for 6 years now, and half the time I ask myself, what did we do to keep them here? We can't retain everyone, but this identification of top talent, identification of critical talent, and then of course trying to retain all of these people, that's humanly possible, I think.
Right. Okay. All right.
Just to add to that, right? I have personally seen that typically the tech talent are like you give them a requirement and they are solving the requirement. So their focus is only technology, right? If we can just involve them into frontline sales, if we can get them into events, if we can get them to talk to the stakeholders, right? They kind of start taking ownership on the technology that they are developing. Once that trend happens, that they are more into the domain than the technology, then it becomes easier to retain the talent, right? Naturally, you can't do it to all, so you need to do it to a few that you think are relevant to you.
So I think what I'm hearing, Narayan, what you're saying is that, let's not work in silos. Everyone needs to take collective ownership of the work and see the broader impact of the work that you're doing, with the other team members. Perhaps you could collaborate. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And more with other, technology people remain in technology. Give them a space to go out of technology, right?
All right.
I think, that gives them that edge, and that's what they like.
Okay, so tell me something. Can some of this talent come from outside the tech pool of talent? The skill sets that organizations are now looking for. And Puneet and Jeet have both mentioned how there is this frenzy. Can they actually look for the skill set outside tech talent?
Can I take that?
Of course,
actually,
yeah. This is
actually BridgeLabz does that, right? Our focus is to create new employability pool, right? And our belief is that if we are hunting after the same talent that is existing, you really are going to create a scarcity, and you're going to unnecessarily create demand. There is no need for it, right? Anybody can code. If we can take that mantra and try to create new employability pool, right? That solves a big problem. And here, the biggest challenge is the education system here, because the approaches of a trainer who themselves are unemployable. So the way to solve this problem is more unacademic way, where they learn by solving problems. It is more internship kind of an approach than a training kind of an approach, right? So fundamentally, if you see, bootstrap startups really do well here. They take inexperienced engineers in, and slowly they become core to the organization, right? Why? Because they are working in a real world, in a real problem statement, and learning the trick by doing it, right? They are like a shadow resource. So I personally believe that when you're investing on a new talent outside the employability pool, if you can somehow create a shadow time for them, right, you really are creating more core engineers in the employability pool. That way, moving out of the demand, because the supply exists. We say that it's an empty pond syndrome, where the fish exists, everyone is hungry, but in reality, the demand exists, the supply exists. It is that gap that needs to be solved. If that gap can be solved in an unacademic approach, because academic does not produce that output, then really you're solving the problem.
Then is there a mismatch between what companies are looking for and what candidates have to offer?
Big mismatch. And really what company wants is a job ready talent. What company wants is an individual contributor who can contribute from day one, right? So here there are two ways to look at it. If we can bring the skill, right, of the supply to some extent that they are technology ready, and companies can step down a bit and say that, okay, I understand that you're not an individual contributor, but can you contribute as a team, right? Be part of a team and start contributing before you go into being an individual contributor. Then it will solve the problem, right? But today what happens is that neither the supply is ready, neither the tech companies are wanting to invest that time to groom them, right? And that creates the problem.
Puneet or Jeet, do you want to take from what Narayan has just said? Do you have a response to it?
I actually, go ahead, Puneet.
Go ahead, Jeet.
I actually want to first address what Narayan said, get tech people to do sales and frontline sales. I don't necessarily endorse that the natural evolution for the engineers is to go into business. As business leaders and as tech leaders, I would want to give them a purpose. I would want to tell them the impact of their work, and I would want to tell them about how they are contributing. I would want to tell them about their contribution, but they need not evolve into product managers or
I will clarify your point later.
I think Jitendra, probably, what I take away from Narayan's statement is that that empathy for that role for which they are building products can really go a long way. And if we can do some kind of a mini internship or some kind of exposure for engineers to go and step behind beyond the boundaries of the stack that a lot of us create as engineers, I think I kind of
I endorse that. Yeah,
I see the point, and I agree that goes a long way. And in my experience, when engineers have started thinking about business problems, when they've stopped thinking about, hey, you know what, this is a stack I know about, this is the API I know about, or this is the interface I know about. And they've started really thinking about what is the problem that the business or the organization is running after. Their outcomes, their ideas become more innovative, more creative. They tend to make a lot more sense to a non-tech person too. And I think that gives a more well-rounded approach for an engineer to grow. And I think engineers can then probably over time even grow into product leaders or business leaders if that is their natural interest or inclination. One thing I also want to sort of add here is with respect to the training or the let's say the education that we were talking about earlier. I think I feel while there is in general a shift towards moving to more practical training, to more project-driven experience, internships and all that stuff, there is still something missing, which is the meaning of the word engineer, right? Not most engineers don't realize that they're problem solvers. They're supposed to solve problems, and it sort of get misconstrued as being good at developing code or writing software, which is, in my opinion, a part of that definition of that role. So if you are able to focus or emphasize that working on fundamentals as core problem solving skills, and sort of blur out that boundary a little bit, I think it can help everyone involved, including the person himself or herself.
Puneet, for this, do you think the reason to do it has to come from within the education system, or will it be pushed in by corporate?
I think it has to be a little bit more, symbiotic in nature, perhaps, if that's the right word. Institutions have to evolve, and they have to realize that the traditional methods need to keep adapting to the world around. At the same time, I think corporates owe this responsibility to give that feedback and to work with institutions to overall sort of evolve the whole process of training engineers. I think the emphasis has to go away from what looks good on my resume to what have I truly learned as an engineer, and that whole professional ethic around it, the whole outlook towards innovation, that has to be first and foremost in the minds of everyone around.
Okay.
Can I add 2 cents to this?
Yes.
I personally feel that training is a curse to the engineering. Right? Because you see, in chart accountancy, you do articleship. It's not called training, right? You work with a partner. The partner is not a trainer. In residency, you go to a real hospital, real patient, real doctor. There's no training there, right? In law, there is apprenticeship. Even sales, there are frontline sales, right? You learn on the job. So the problem here is that, you can be innovative, you can be problem solver if you really know you've learned on the job. The problem here, so I feel that education institute can only do so much, right? Then there is a gap that exists where they can be made little bit tech ready. Then there is one more gap where they have on the job kind of exposure, right? That's the only way to learn. There is no other way to learn by doing, right? You want to play cricket, you have to go to the nets. You can't be looking at a YouTube and say, I'm going to learn cricket, right? You have to bowl, somebody is watching you, correcting you, doing the course correction. So the whole problem is that the experiential in true sense, right? Like articleship, like apprenticeship doesn't exist in engineering. And that's the core problem that we need to solve.
Supposing if someone came to you, fresher, and said, what, like Narayan is suggesting, hey, give me some training, frontline sales, whatever, I'll build something for you. Would you give them the opportunity?
My take is, at least today, the fresh graduates that I interact with, they are orders of magnitude more prepared for the corporate world than the graduates of, say, 15 years ago, or don't even ask me about 20 years ago.
Right.
And it's probably because of people like Narayan, a lot of open source software, developer communities, boot camps, online education, project-based learning. I feel the percentage of engineers who I used to interact with earlier, and would ask them, hey, what are you doing? And I think it was library management software for the longest time. And then it was Twitter sentiment analysis. I see a different variety. People have done internships. People have said, okay, I didn't have anything to do. I started my own community and, we are building this, or I did a startup. I think it's changing. And when a fresh graduate just approaches me, I would look at this, frankly, if 10,000 people approach me and I want to hire only 2, I would have to do some kind of filtering to say, okay, like, what have you done in life before you approached me? Have you just done engineering, or have you contributed to open source? Have you, built a community? Even, do you run a YouTube channel where you teach people how to interview well? You haven't given an interview, but can you do that? And that sets some of these people apart. And in some cases, at Cast 24, we have given them a chance to interview with us directly. In some cases, we have given them a chance to interview for an internship. And then some of them have actually converted to full-time employees. This is the truth. But if somebody says, I am just doing an engineering here, I have not done any coding in past, no competitive coding, no projects. There are as Narayan said, there are about 1 million such people. I think I'll just be swarmed interviewing these people. So
I
these kids have to stand out.
actually, Jitendra, you're right, but there are, that's 4% or 8% who are directly employable. So in reality, if we really want to create an employability pool, we really need to go after that 90% who really have no exposure. And predominantly, this is because of the, in 1980s, the engineering college started flooding for no reason, right? They could do engineering or not, the engineering college flooded, right? But what it internally created is that 1.5 million engineers got created every year, largest in the world. Right now we need to figure out how do we actually take that 90% and give them that exposure which that 10% is having, right? So that we have a larger pool. That's essentially the way to look at it.
I agree about your access to opportunity. The the point that I'm trying to say is industry would continuously try to hire the best possible engineers that they have received, right? And this, I would say, this education of or this realization that hey, people need to do more, they need to do projects, they need to do internship. I think it's rising already, and this your 10% probably hopefully will go to 30% soon and 40% soon. It's probably because of people like you who are were also going to colleges and telling kids that in third year you become serious about study, not just studies, about a job.
So first 2 years, you do what you want to do. Get cracking. Okay.
All sorts of stuff
So,
can be done.
so then my question is this: are you guys saying actually that there is a 90% pool of STEM and IT graduates that are not employable?
I don't know the numbers.
I can give you the numbers.
No,
right?
yeah. Narayan just told us.
And each one will give you a different number. Okay. As you go to unicorns, they will say only 0.5% are employable because they can go after the 0.5%. Right. Then you go to the next level. Right. They will say 4% is employable. The service industry will say 20% is employable. What we have done, right, last 5 years being part of ETCS and they taking BridgeLabz Tech Quotient test against us, right? Close to 500,000 people have taken. What we have seen is that 45 to 50% can be made tech employable if we really invest on them. To me, that's a larger pool because as we go to 0.5, 4% or 20% for service industry, it really doesn't work, right? How do we go after that 50% who can be really made tech employable?
So I have this other question, which is linked to what Puneet said earlier. He said, that we're creating all of these engineers, but there are gaps in their learning and stuff like that, which is what we've been discussing. Jitendra and you both have inputted into it. Why is it then that we have foreign companies, international companies, then wanting to look at our engineering talent, especially when you say that 90% of them are not even employed?
Can I try to take that?
Go ahead.
Yes.
A small country like Estonia has 2,000 engineering graduates. Yes. Out of 1 million, even 10% are employable. That's a bigger number, and 100K, and that's what it comes down to. Everybody else all over world they have like 5,000 people graduating every year, 10,000. India is graduating 1.5 million, 1 million, and 10% means 150K employable engineers for these companies. We just beat the world by sheer numbers today.
Very true. Very true. I think, and there is only 2% unemployment among STEM graduates in the Western countries. So there is no pool available, no supply available. At least here you can see 1 million that you can do something with it, right? So India has to really make use of this, right? And we have the largest software pool. We really need to, we contribute 25% of the world software pool. We really have to make use of the workable population, the young population that we have, right, to our advantage, to our stride.
Okay, all right. Puneet, to you now. In 2018, several global companies like Google, Apple, IBM, Starbucks came out and said they do not need employees with a college education. Now, when they advertise for jobs, they do ask you for a degree, right? Like a master's degree in applied math, business analytics, business intelligence, computer science, operations, research, statistics, whatnot. Perhaps this comes down to certain kind of jobs, but can you discount a college degree? Can you replace that signaling impact that college has for employers in India?
So I think to a large degree, the concept of a degree has itself evolved. I think gone are the days when people would say, okay, if I don't have an IIT or an NIT graduate, then I don't want to hire them. And I would filter the CVs or the employable people based on that. There are lots of organizations like BridgeLabz who are upskilling a lot of the engineering or the tech talent pool coming from various diverse backgrounds. And I think there are a lot of fairness policies in play now across organizations which allow people to be employed on merit and on an alignment of their ability and enthusiasm to solve a problem rather than whether they have the perfect resume. So I think that scenario is already changing. And I think more power to organizations who are helping the employability pool widen and for us getting access to a set of people who come from different backgrounds and they bring in fresh perspectives of their own to the job at hand. So yes, I think in a way the landscape is already evolving.
Okay. Anybody else want to add to it?
When Google and Apple talk about it, because there is no, there is no science graduate out there in Western countries that they can hire. So India still have 1.5 million engineers first to make them employable. Then we have next level of computer graduates to make them employable. So we still, so the only way of gradation today the Indian companies have is by the education, because the supply is so big, right? So moment that supply gets exhausted, that's where you have to go and try to say that what's the other way to do it. So naturally there will be little forward for the Western countries. The same people when they hire in India may not be the same way, right? They would look for graduates and higher degree graduates compared to when they hire from their own country, because there's no supply available there.
Narayan, we're seeing this fourth industrial revolution take place, which is categorized now by rapid changes in technology. The demand for tech talent is only going to rise because the sector is expanding and it's crossing billions in revenue year after year. Can we keep up?
By sheer number, yes. Just look at the McKinsey study. They say that by 2030, right, world needs more than 50 million engineers. Right from 22 million right now. That is practically 10 years. You're going to double it, right? Whereas it's going to displace around 400 million people because they are not going to do the same job what they are doing today. So tech is going to be a differentiator. Now, if you look at India, right, if it is going to partake in this tech revolution, right, India needs another 10 to 12 million more engineers. So we really have that supply pool that is existing. It's only if we are able to meet that gap, we can create that, fulfill the world demand of tech engineers, right? So onus is on us. How do we really solve this employability gap, and how we and industry collaborate together to actually create the larger pool, because there is a demand, there is a need for the supply to get jobs. So, and we become the global, remain that global tech manpower that exists, right? So that's my feeling.
Yeah. Okay. I want to now talk of women power. So this question is now for Jitendra Agarwal and Puneet Gupta. Women in tech are shrinking. They're not just underrepresented, they are underpaid. Why is female tech talent so undervalued and so underutilized? Jitendra?
All right. You made, there are 2 points here. Women in tech, the numbers are shrinking. I don't know how we have come to this conclusion. From my personal experience, I was taking the overall inflow of women in tech should have increased.
Yes.
My unscientifically collected data based on the number of women engineers I meet at work, in colleges, or in developer communities, there's a huge change. So maybe the shrink is just probably 1 year or 6 months or something, because if I compare last 10 years or last 20 years, it's huge. I see
So
more
there is
women.
a lot of data which has come in, which has said that during the entire pandemic, which is 2 years, a lot of women had to give up on jobs. A lot of it was tech talent that had to give up. On the other side, there's also this dichotomy where they said that because of remote working, it created opportunities. But then there's this whole issue of bro culture in tech, which a lot of women don't want to deal with.
I feel like the remote should have helped there. Like if I have to guess why, I think
Yeah, so they're saying that it helped, but
yeah, it may be just
culture does
because
not signal.
we don't have a lot of senior women engineers. Sorry, I'm interrupting you here. Maybe that's what is happening. But the new info seems pretty solid. I'm surprised to hear that like it is shrinking, and with the talent war and frenzy that we are discussing, and so far we have been discussing, who would not want to hire like so I can't imagine the percentage shrinking. As far as underpaid is concerned, I would say uh, tech is probably the only industry where it is still better than any other industry. Um, because frankly, I don't care about whether the person is a male or female. If they are doing good work, they are adding value. I am forced to give them a good pay. Otherwise, they will just move. With the current environment, even more so.
Okay, all right, Puneet,
I
your
would be
thoughts?
surprised.
Yeah,
I would say this frenzy will make things better for women, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want to share that around, I think at present, probably more than 20% of our tech team is women, and many of them have risen through the ranks as part, and even they're part of our leadership team. And in my observation, that number has actually been steadily rising for us. Salary growth, recognitions, opportunities, I think they're primarily a factor of merit and nothing else actually. So I think, and we are constantly looking for good talent. So if there are some great women engineers who are looking out for opportunities, who want to get a shot at things, then I mean, would love to have a chat sometime.
All right. Jitendra, is there a similar percentage of women in your
Just
organization?
to add one more, can I add one more?
Go ahead, Narayan.
Yeah, can I add one?
Yes, yes.
From BridgeLabz, we see that around 35 to 40% are women. What we see is that the tier 2, tier 3 women engineers are far more better than male engineers. They are far more focused. There's no distraction among them, right? So really, in fact, we have companies that say that they want 50% women engineers minimum when they give us the requirement to us.
That's
So
fantastic.
in reality, really, we don't see the tech world is differentiating between the woman and the male. This thing, but naturally, this is all in the last 1 decade, or 10 years or 15 years. So that's the reason we are not seeing that many women in a higher roles. But as this trend continues, I believe another 10 years from now, we really see the women leaders coming up in tech more so.
Definitely.
Okay, Puneet, I wanted to point out the fact that in these last 2, 3 years of the pandemic, everyone's been working from home. And there are surveys which are showing that, tech teams would like to work from home. How do you see this impacting the way organizations function, especially when, over 50, 60, 70% people want to work from home?
I think here, to be precise and short, I think evolution is the key. Flexibility is the mantra. I mean, I think habits can change. New habits can be cultivated, acquired. If anything, we've learned from the long work from home is that there are lots of assumptions we used to make, which have now been sort of shattered or challenged, and we've encountered and conquered several challenges that we faced, and I'm sure that this new way of working has also brought in its own set of challenges, right? So going forward, I think there cannot be any one shoe fits all kind of a solution. It needs to be something that organizations and individuals need to sort of understand each other's constraints or preferences and work out something that makes sense, or is as close to a win-win as possible. Already, I think we are trying things like hybrid modes of working. People are traveling to other cities short term. They stay there for a couple of months, crack the difficult problems, and then they come back and work on those things. There are off-site meetings happening. Like sometimes you just go in to a resort for a day or two and crack something, in terms of solving the problem. So I think it will help us innovate and figure out new ways to collaborate better. I'm excited to find out what that sweet spot is for all of us.
Okay. And that will differ, I'm assuming, from company to company, organization to organization. Right. Okay. Okay. Jitendra, last question now to you. The NASSCOM Tech CEO survey says that 60% of the CEOs expect that 50% people will return to office. But there is a bigger number, say maybe 80% employees who prefer the hybrid or the remote mode. Again, there is a clear gap between what top management wants and what employees want. How and Puneet just pointed out that everyone will have to find this sweet spot. How do you think we can reconcile this mismatch? What are your thoughts?
I don't see a big mismatch, frankly. Let's assume there are like 100, each CEO has 100 employees. So you're talking about 100 CEOs, 10,000 employees. Okay. So we are saying 2,000 of these are okay coming back. 80% said they want to work hybrid, right? Out of 100 CEOs, you're saying 60% expect people to come back. So 40% don't expect people to come back, right? So 2,000 employees don't want to come back. 4,000 CEOs don't expect, 40 CEOs don't expect 4,000 employees to come back. Seems good. Now 60% CEOs are saying, hey, 50 of their employees, not 100. Okay.
Yeah, 50%.
That's 3,000 employees. So basically, we are saying 2,000 employees want to come back. 3,000 employees are expected to come back out of 10,000. It's not huge. And this is just a tiny example, simple percentages that I saw. We're talking about 10% mismatch, right? If we include people who have shown interest in working hybrid, the gap may just go away. It might turn out that more people want to work from office than more CEOs want their people to work from office. I'm not concerned here. And see, the CEOs also have to do the same commute. So they're not immune to commuting. The CEOs also spend the same amount of time. CEOs can also see that they work more. They are sometimes more productive if they can get uninterrupted, mind space. So I think the hybrid is here to stay. Every company will figure out their own way to make it happen. I like what Puneet said. While the flexibility is there, we are trying to figure out, can we find ways so that people still do their team bonding, the people still get to know each other outside of work, all sorts of one-day meetings, let's work out of a coffee shop, let's meet for a couple of days for offsite. All of this will happen. Right now, at least the numbers that you gave me, 60% CEOs expecting 50% people to come back. I'm not concerned. Looks like everybody wants the same thing.
Okay.
Can I add 2 cents here? I think because I'm talking about employability pool, I think, when we want to go into an internship, apprenticeship kind of an approach, really they need to be at work. So really it applies to an individual contributor. It really, CEO really doesn't matter is at work or is at home, or a senior people in the company, doesn't really matter where they are, they can contribute. When you talk about junior employees, they better be at work because they are learning on the job, right? They cannot be learning at home. So this is a concept that we really need to make sure that the junior engineers understand that they don't have the luxury, because they really need to learn to become an individual contributor. They are not ready yet.
I have a comment on this. I sincerely believed in this, Narayan, till 2 years ago. Puneet said a lot of our assumptions were thrown away. This was my big assumption. Whenever my friends who ran remote before remote became popular, I was like, how do you hire new people? How do they integrate with you? And it hasn't been easy, but I have seen people flourish even joining remotely. Frankly, I haven't met two of my co-founders yet. So
Yeah, again, I'm telling you not about senior employees. I'm talking
yeah,
about just freshers, right? Freshers have no on-the-job experience, right? So when you are putting them into a remote kind of a world where really they really don't understand the business, they don't understand the tech that well, right? How do you expect them to cope up, right? So when we talk about articleship, residency, right? If you want to be a doctor, a practicing doctor, you better go to a hospital, right? How would you otherwise learn the trick of trade? Once you are done, maybe you can practice on your own.
yeah.
So really, I believe that we need to understand that, when we are talking about new employability pool, new junior engineers, right? Both sides, the mandate mindset needs to be there, that a support system in the company exists to get them there, and the willingness from the fresh lot exists, that they are willing to go because they are not yet ready, right? That's those who are ready, absolutely they can be a contributor where they are, wherever they are.
Can I make a comment here? I think people, even new engineers are joining companies, they learn significantly more in design discussions and code review than they would learn by just being in an office and coding the whole day and not interacting with others, or even by interacting with others. Right? The maximum learning happens in those code reviews and in those design discussions,
Right.
and those can still happen. Is remote the perfect environment for somebody to start their career? I would still say no. But I've been pleasantly surprised that I have hired fresh graduates, I've hired interns, converted them to engineers, full-time engineers, and they have been successful. The only part that disturbs me is, hey, do they bond with their team? That's the only problem I'm trying to solve. Puneet wants to say something.
I'm good.
This is a big assumption
Puneet,
that has been
Puneet, any
shared.
thoughts? Any thoughts?
No, I think, like I said, every organization and every leader will find their sweet spot. And this is a discovery each one of us are going through in some sense and trying to figure out what works best for our teams.
All right. On that note, Puneet Gupta, Narayan Mahadevan, Jitendra Agarwal, thank you so very much for your time and for your thoughts today. And I wish you all the very best when it comes to hiring the people that you want. And thank you once again.